Hey folks, it's Eric from Belgrade Beat, on the streets of Belgrade once again. And I wanted to make a video about something that I think comes up a lot in people's minds when they're looking at Serbia from the outside. So, I grew up in Canada, and I live in Serbia, and I much prefer living in Serbia to living in Canada. And so this video is about how much Serbian nationalism affects my life, basically. Now, when people think about Serbia, I mean, they think about especially in North America, the last they heard about Serbia was, the 90s, war, Bosnia, Kosovo, NATO bombings, all that stuff. And so they still kind of associate that with this place. And I know that when I tell someone in Canada that I live in Serbia, they think of that. And so they think there's a tendency to sort of assume that this country is some sort of nationalist country or some sort of place that has this radical ideology and that is full of all those types of people. And it's not true at all. Okay, so it's a Saturday morning in June. I'm walking down the street, and indeed, you do have those types of people. In fact, as I walk down the street, there's like that guy there sitting there, and he was actually tried in the Netherlands for the war crimes from the 90s or something. I won't go into it that much, but I'm walking down the street, and that guy's over there, and he's giving his books with his Serbian nationalist. He's the president of the Radical Party or something, nationalist ideology. So what? Could there come a time when foreigners like me are kicked out of the country because they want to only have Serbian people in this country? It's possible. It's happened in history. I'm an ethnic German from my father's side of the family, and in 1945, we were kicked out of this country. My family lived in Slovakia, but ethnic Germans were kicked out of this country. But is it likely that that's going to happen anytime soon? No, it's not. And so, does Serbian nationalism affect my life? I would say it doesn't. It doesn't really. Now, I've interviewed before on this channel a guy named Bojan, and there's my little gypsy violin friend. Anyways, yeah. He gets better every year. Anyways, the Roma, or the gypsies fitting into Serbian society, is a really good example of how tolerant this society is to minorities. And a lot of people who have never been to Serbia do not know how hospitable and welcoming the Serbian people are to foreigners. And so when they think of Serbia, they think of this, sort of nationalist country. And does that affect my life on a daily basis as a foreigner living here in Belgrade? And the answer is no, as I already told you. And the reason it is no is because, well, there's just so much more to life than politics. And that's why I generally avoid talking about politics on this channel, because it just gets really, really awkward really fast, really spicy, and people have strong opinions. And this is a very divided country in terms of, well, not as divided as America these days, let's put it that way as well. Okay, I'm sort of rambling on, but the point of the story is that I'm an internationalist. My blood is a mix of people who were previously living in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, half, the Russian Empire, 1/4, and the British Empire, 1/4. So I'm a mix of those three traditions and those three sorts of strains of thought, or genetics, or whatever you want to call it. So those people. And my family grew up in a country called my grandparents, who I knew, who raised me, played a huge part, grew up in a country called Czechoslovakia as ethnic Germans, which was previously the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which extended to right across the river from where I'm standing now. Really close to here. So do I respect the Serbian nation? Yes, absolutely. Do I respect people being proud of it? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot to be proud of in this culture, and that's what makes it such a great place to live. But Do I think that that should, dominate somebody's identity? That being Serbian? No, you should actually have an identity which is based around being the best human that you can be in the world. And that's why I find the dark side of nationalism is stuff like genocide and stuff that guy was being tried for. I think he was acquitted, exonerated, or whatever you want to call it. And that is a dark side of it, and we all can admit that. And I don't think there's anybody in this world who, when they actually think about it and unpack the idea, thinks that genocide is a good thing, thinks that killing other human beings is a good thing. But there's just so many different ways of approaching the topic of culture and society and practices, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what you do, what you don't do, who you are, what your name is, all that stuff. And Serbian culture is very mixed as I am, being a mix of German from Slovakia, Ukrainian, and, Canadian from the British Empire sort of people. Serbia has as many influences. One of them is this Austro-Hungarian Empire. So, some people from a Serbian nationalist lens would view me, somebody like me, living in this society as some sort of, I'm some sort of neo-colonialist or something. And I've heard that before, and it's like, well, maybe, I don't know. But I'm just a human being who likes the Serbian human beings who are in the Serbian society here enough that I want to make this my home. This city is my home, and I don't like the place where I grew up, Toronto, Canada. I don't like living there as much because I just find that the people here are much more like me in the way that they express themselves and the way they feel about life and all that stuff. And there's a number of reasons for that, but it is just who I am, and this Belgrade city and this Serbia country somehow vibes with who I am. So there's another YouTuber called Charles Cather who is very much more of this sort of nationalist Serbian American guy, and basically he just got Serbian citizenship. He posts pictures of him kissing his new Serbian passport and stuff like that. And he said on the video that the biggest reason that he wanted to get it is because of pride. He's so proud of Serbia and his connection to the country, and he's not Serbian. He's, as far as I found out, he's just an American dude who really likes Serbia. And so he's sort of like is nationalist on that level with the Serbian people. And it's really interesting to watch, because my perspective is very internationalist, because it's complicated when your family comes, like, first of all, being mixed between, different sides of the family, blah, blah, blah. And my grandparents coming from a place where they grew up speaking Slovak, German, and Hungarian as 3 languages in their city of normal daily life. And so I'm kind of immune to the idea of national pride. I think Canada's a nice place. I'm happy that I grew up there. I don't want to live there anymore. I'm not proud or ashamed of that country, but I'm happy that, it gave me this sense of decency that I can travel the world with and sort of, experience life through that lens of having grown up in a very peaceful place. And so, does Serbian nationalism affect my life? No, it doesn't, in a negative way. It's because this place, you have to understand that whenever there's nationalism in a negative way, I'm talking like, wars of people of different religions and countries fighting each other, all that stuff. Whenever that happens, it's like, it's a very small amount of the population who is actually throwing their support behind that, and the rest of the people sort of go along and do what they're told to do, just following orders sort of stuff. But the actual hatred of other races is very rare in human beings, and in my life in Belgrade I don't really feel it. There was a study that showed that Serbia is the least racist country in Europe in terms of discrimination against people with darker skin. And so that was really interesting. And most of the people here are super curious about other countries, super curious about all sorts of different nations and stuff like that. And it really shows when you come to Belgrade and experience life here and talk to people. And yes, they speak English, and yes, they'll explain their history, their nation, the troubles that they've been through as a nation and all that stuff, and the sense of pride they feel for their culture, and they'll share that all with you. And then once you learn to appreciate that, you realize that yes, they do have a lot to be proud of. But no matter how proud you are as a nation, it doesn't justify going and killing other people, or but then that's the general thing, but then there's lots of really nuanced issues in between that, around language and culture and religion and practices, opinions, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what sort of issues are discussed in a society and all that stuff. And we're going through that. Like the people, I can't even say it's we anymore because I don't live there, but in North America you're going through that right now, where they've got a huge gulf in the society between these more traditional American people who like Trump, and then the more progressive people who hate his guts. And then you have this whole protest thing, and it's also an angry sort of mob. And I support the protest because, being from Canada, I always noticed that American police and authority figures, right from the border control, right through, the way that people on the streets the police on the streets are treating people and all that stuff, it was a fucking aggressive and domineering and really sort of sinister vibe that you get from American authority figures and police, border control, all those people. And it's very sadistic. They behave very sadistically, and they talk to you and treat you like dirt, basically. And as a Canadian crossing the border, that was always evident compared to Canada, where we have, a much more tolerant and civil society than the United States, and a lot less crime and a lot less social problems like poverty. So what's the solution? I mean, for Serbia, if this country could just, get a little richer, I think, then the problem of people feeling hard done by, that the need for nationalism goes away with prosperity and wealth. And in the modern world, well, slowly but surely, Eastern Europe gets more developed, and these problems go away. They will never go away completely. And it's not a problem that somebody actually is proud of their country. But it is a problem if they feel hatred towards other people and they feel like a victim of other people and stuff like that. Is there a lot of political manipulation in the Balkans? Yes, absolutely. For hundreds of years, Austrians, Turks were fighting over the city and manipulate. And is, the West a sort of benevolent force that rules the world peacefully? Obviously not. Look at the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and the bombings on this city in 1999. It's unfair. And so you can listen to these people, hear them out, and hear how they sort of have been hard done by different political influences, and thus the sort of narrative of these nationalists is validated by that. So I'm happy to talk with anybody who wants to talk about that stuff. It's not always an easy discussion to have, but the thing is to be open about it and not, tell people that they're wrong. Listen to their idea. Why do they think the way that they do? Why are they stuck on that their nation is better than others, or that their nation is a victim of other nations, and that this and that and that, and Yeah, it's true. A lot of it is true, and you sort of have to talk to them and listen to them and understand their perspective. And that's what I feel that in the West now, specifically, a lot of people have lost that ability to talk to people and understand their perspectives and want to have conversations about this sort of stuff. And that's what worries me. You know, I realized today that discussing complicated ideas on Facebook posts with your friends on Facebook comments and stuff is about a way to get to truth, as smoking crack is a good way to get to long-lasting peace and inner happiness. So think about that. That those sorts of short arguments where people just like push their opinion on other people without actually a serious and nuanced and real-time dialogue, it's like, yeah, very dangerous. So what we need to overcome the challenges and the negative sides of nationalism in this world, of racism and all that stuff, is more conversation where we understand where people are coming from and, you know, figure out how we can agree with them and evolve the ideas. Agree with them and evolve the ideas. Because obviously we've gone a long way in North America and Western Europe in accepting people of different, you know, nationalities into our country, but not far enough, because, you know, this whole thing in the States is happening now and they have very good points. Right. And there still is oppression, and yeah, so this is a long video already, but I hope you get my drift, is that I'm an internationalist. I live in Belgrade because I love it here. Doesn't mean that I'm any sort of anti-anything or pro-nationalist or something, and the people who don't understand why I live here have never been here, and they haven't seen how welcoming and wonderful the people are here and how amazing this city is, and so they will never understand. And there's going to be people in life that you disagree with, but do a service to yourself and do a service to other people, and try to understand what exactly you disagree with and what exactly the contradictory ideas are. And that's how we heal humanity. So thanks a lot. Eric from Belgrade Beat. I'll catch you guys later.